All right, everybody. How was the break? How was the break? Can you hear me? My mic on? Yeah, I think it is. I can just shout. Am I on, Marley? Okay, cool. Hey, so we're going to get started back. We have one more presenter, and then we have lunch, but we had the break, so hopefully people aren't too hungry. And again, Barry Markowitz and his wife, Taffy. Did everybody try that coffee? There's more. If you haven't tried it and you like coffee and you like chocolate, it is amazing. So go back and try it before it runs out. Barry is a photojournalist from Polynesia. He's lived there. He's apparently related to Polynesian royalty, he told me.
My wife is the bomb.
King Kamehameha?
No.
It's the only one I know.
Only The Rock is related to him, is going to play him very soon. He's not our relative.
Okay. Well, anyway, you can see the resemblance to The Rock, by the way. Barry has some amazing photos online. If you get a chance to go check out his socials, they're actually linked to from SpinUp2019. You can see some of the pictures he's taken of athletics, of sports. He also specializes in putting cameras in unique perspectives, like was doing GoPro before GoPro was a thing, really. So let's give it up for Barry Markowitz.
There is no way that I wanted to be on this side of the microphone. A year ago, I contacted the guy with this kind of hair, the heron, and I asked him, could I get contact for Kelly Shores? I want to cover the cool kids of YouTube. You guys are all the cool kids. How many people look to you that are buying a drone, just got a drone, little kids that wish they had something, and they look to you guys? You guys are the gateway. You know, there's going to be more astronauts like our friend Scotty P, because you are nurturing young people. The whole thing about STEM, about science, technology. You know, you guys are almost like sugar with the aspirin when I was a little kid in the 50s. You give them incentive, you provide them excitement, you show them scenes. You guys interview people from around the world that open up horizons. In the South Pacific, data and internet connectivity has been an issue. So I am a videographer, I am a photographer, I am a columnist where I write about technology, travel, survival issues, because CNN asked me to. I am an independent person that when death and destruction happens, CNN has me report from Hawaii or jump on a Coast Guard C-130 and go to the South Pacific. As recently as last February, I was doing a corporate work in Fiji, and I was in the town of Nadi, Fiji, which has direct flights to Vanuatu. I had with me my Mavic 2 Pro, I had my Osmo Pocket, and I had my Nikon Still Gear, which also shoots video. So I was in touch with CNN Air regularly, depending on the devastation and the death toll. I was the only guy in position to fly directly, immediately to Vanuatu. And because being a Pacific guy, it's an amazing deal. When you're a Pacific guy and live there a long time, you have relatives, you have friends, you know people, you meet people through sports, through journalism. So I had places to stay in Vanuatu. I never imagined I would, but because of some of the work I do, I had a place with generators and air conditioning and a floor to sleep on, which is all you want. As a journalist, I'm going to talk about some journalism things, and they relate to drone work. You guys, whether you have YouTube channels, whether you're hobbyists, whether you're professionals, news will confront you. Those of you that live in Florida, right now better check your bloody phone because there's devastation, power outages. News will confront you. Build a Drone reviewer might be scoring some very big scenic images now of stuff happening because it seems to be on that side of Florida and the Gulf side. You can choose to be a news person. And there's a lot of baggage that come with that. There's a lot of emotional duress, and you have to prepare. You have to be almost a Renaissance person to be an actuality-driven news person, because here's what they tell me when I'm on a C-130, and it's just like the TV show SEAL Team. There are these red webbed seats that are connected by pipes, and it hurts the bottom of your thighs, and it's very noisy. I don't know how they do these scenes where people are talking to each other on SEAL Team and the C-130. You can't hear anything. That's why my wife allowed me to get the Bose noise-canceling headphones, is for that, which is only occasionally, but I sure love it when we're flying across the Pacific, different places. So the Coast Guard says, we're going to American Samoa, we are hoping we can bring you back. You may not come back with us, you may be stuck. Because they get calls, they drop off journalists, they drop off FEMA rescue guys, and then boom, they gotta go to Antarctica to pick up a medical patient. So I'm actually gonna talk to you about some things later on, if we don't run out of time, to help you understand how you need to more fully prepare. And that preparedness for news should also relate to you and your home. And again, people say there's climate change. Hey, in the South Pacific, we've got hurricane season and stuff happening all the time. In Hawaii, you know, I'll be with friends and family in Los Angeles, and I'm looking at 2 hurricanes coming our way. So, first of all, why have I continued to be a journalist when it's hard? It's very hard. It's hard on the head, it's hard on the heart. Because I've seen more death than any first responder in Hawaii, and maybe even in Samoa, because I don't work a shift. I'm on call 24 hours a day, and I'm frequently there before a first responder gets there. And I've actually had to call stuff in. On the North Shore of Oahu, where my wife and I lived for many years, it's scary up there. We got big waves, we got people coming home late at night, we got drunks, we got drug addicts, and bad things happen. And I've had to be the guy that covers it. I was at Interdrone a couple years ago, and I guess part of that's what motivated me to accept the request to talk. There was a guy who thinks he's all that. I was so excited. I got to hear a guy talk about drones and journalism. And the first thing he said, and I need Jason to straighten this out, he said he gets a call from the TV station, he goes in there, he shuts down the airspace, and he's the only guy covering it. I went to talk to him 2 years ago in the exhibit area, and I said, could I talk to you about something? Because that's not really the way it works. And he shut me down, wouldn't talk to me, was abusive verbally. In reality, you guys, because I said news comes to you, or if you're experienced, I can actually hear how a Black Hawk helicopter turns, and I know it's something happened. I know that he's searching, that he's involved in something serious, dropping off people or just looking. And I will go to a scene. Of course, I have scanners and I hear things. And when you earn the trust that Dre talked about, as a drone person, as a community person, as a journalist, people call you. I actually had firefighters call me at 3 in the morning and say, I think you want to cover this, because they respected and trusted me. Police officers trusted me because I would accidentally happen upon a drug bus, and you don't want to have the imagery of the faces of those people, because there was a very brave police officer, Troy Barboza, that was assassinated in Hawaii because they knew who he was. So it is difficult. I actually, on the way back from covering the Samoa tsunami, I actually had PTSD. I was crying. I couldn't stop crying on the C-130. And my personal cure is I play my classic rock, man. I put on my Cream, my Blind Faith, my Creedence. And from that, I had to adapt a model that when I'm facing difficulties, whatever, the great poet, the great learned philosopher, John Fogerty, keep on chuglin'. So that's my saying, and it's catching on with some of my friends' journalism, because it's hard. And you try, you really try. The South Pacific is right now a wonderful place for you guys to come drone. So one of my great assets is Sammy's Camera in Southern California. They actually take people on photo courses like to Cuba and other places around the world. I've encouraged them to come, starting with American Samoa. And some of you received bags from American Samoa, and they helped me with the music for a little taste of Polynesia video that I put together. I've done some documentaries in the South Pacific, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, American Samoa, which are two different places. One is the independent nation of Samoa, the other is the territory of American Samoa, and they all produce great football and rugby players. Fiji is going to be in this too. There are different things in the Pacific than what you guys face. Now, Nanook, man, I used to love traveling around in Hawaii with my big Nanook and my Phantom 4 and Phantom 4 Pro. Well, I tried that going to the South Pacific on Fiji Air, who I love, but unfortunately, they make money charging for weight, and that is not considered carry-on to them. So then there's these more appropriate boxes, which are great. These are Mavic Pro, and you guys will receive them today, courtesy of Nanook. They're great people. And you just have to really figure things out. You know what you do in the South Pacific when weight is an issue? You go to Walmart, and you buy like a bread thing, and you put it in there. How much does this weigh? Now, I know my Nanook and my Rick Bowman Go Professional cases will be upset with me. There's another company that Kelly Shores and I really, really, really love, and that's Think Tank. You know, a Mavic Pro will fit in here. And you gotta MacGyver everything. You have to outthink your problems. And I think that I'm proud of what I do because of some results I'm gonna tell you about. From the tsunami in Samoa, I was there shooting, and CNN lost track with me. They were worried for me, and I was worried for me, because I got a disability. I lost my Achilles tendon. And when a tsunami hits, there's always fear of aftershocks from the earthquake. Since tsunamis are earthquake generated, I can't run up the hill. And I was scared. I was really scared. That probably contributed to my kind of meltdown on the plane afterwards, interviewing people that lost loved ones. But here's what I had to tell them, and here's the results of what happened. I'm very sorry, I need to talk to you. And one guy was ahead of Noah who just lost a child, and his wife was in a coma because she had water in the brain. And I said, we need the world to know what happened here. The world cares when they hear from you, somebody who's endured, who's suffering, who has to build a new life. Will you please visit with me? And I clipped on the mic, and I interviewed him, and I held back the tears. The first images that President Obama saw from the tsunami, which was exactly 10 years ago, September 19th, was my images. Governor Tulafono of American Samoa approached me after a press conference. He said, Obama's given us $50 million. He saw your images. He saw the human elements. Let me talk to you about how drones will change journalism. You're seeing it already. Some of the key things, I think Ken Herron showed the FPV video of the initial protests in Hong Kong, and that's online to see. It was amazing. It's not what I would do. It's not what the Chinese government wants out there, but you know, it really told a story. And then, trying to think of some other, but the key is when I go into a place that's totally destroyed, there's nothing there. There's toothpicks of houses. There's people sitting on the steps to their houses. I remember this one scene I shot video and still of a girl playing a ukulele. And I set up and I shot it, video, and I shot stills, and I talked to her. I think she was like out of her mind, like couldn't comprehend what happened to her life. So 50 million came to American soil promptly because of my images, and I'm proud of that. And it gives me the courage to go back in. But when you go into the village, you don't know if that puddle has an electric wire that came down and I'm gonna step in it and I'm gonna get electrocuted. You don't know if there's gonna be something falling because there's metal roofing tins, if I'm gonna step on it, if there's glass everywhere. When you go into destruction, there's insects, there's flies, there's mosquitoes. They're pulling dead bodies out of rivers and ravines in front of me. And you work and you shoot and you keep going and you know you're doing good. So I'm proud, and I also know by sharing some things with you today, I hope that you become, well, let's look at it. What are you guys? You guys are hybrids. You guys are entertainers. You guys are educators. You guys are journalists. You interview people. You review product. That's journalism. So I hope that you embrace some of what Dre said about integrity is very important, accuracy, and I've tried to help some of you. I never, ever, ever want to be a YouTube presenter, but what many don't know is I've been a YouTube creator, content creator for 10 years. The PacWest TV show is a Division II conference, and they've ran my videos, and I've done a lot of great POV stuff, conventional video, and you gotta remember, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, that's like ancient times with technology and what we have now, what I wish I could have now. And I'll talk about that later if we got time. But one of the reasons I don't want to be a presenter, because Original Dobo has created the standard for fashion statement. So I want him to have this hat from Hawaii. I don't want to be like him. I don't want to have that look. So my wife hates this hat too. She thinks I look like a gangster thug. But I've tried to explain to her, you look at the old movies. This is what photographers, the old crank guys, used to keep the hair out of their eyes. So yeah, that's what I do. The other thing that happened where I got $20 million for the people of Windward, Oahu. Again, just before we moved from Haula, Hawaii to Hawaii Kai, Hawaii, there were some kids racing by our neighborhood. And I'm like, wow, what jerks are those? Well, those 4 kids died later that night, racing around and whatever they were doing. And then a day later, there was a memorial set up where they died. And then there was a lady who didn't get her meds right, and she ran into, from Kamehameha Highway, ran into the people that were praying at the memorial, and 2 more people died. And I was there shooting that, and that happened, and interviewing people, and there's death threats. That's why choosing to be a journalist is very, very hard. And how you handle that, I don't know if I really want to go there right now. You always try to be nice, you always try to be diplomatic, but again, I was a UCLA linebacker, and I'm the nicest guy in the world. You threaten me, you threaten my family, I'm gonna assert my First Amendment rights with intensity. And my wife will tell you, I'm not a nice guy. I am your best friend until you come after me, people, you try to stop me. And some people are really not nice people. This, again, if you guys want to put together a little group, I'm sure we can get discounts for hotels and air travel with Hawaiian Air, with Fiji Air. I think American Samoa would be a great place for you guys to go. What I like to do, because I talk too much, is got a little short video. I learned to edit video a week ago at Dunkin' Donuts from my buddy Harold Sweet, Sammy's camera, because I spend all this time. Every Sunday, my wife's a good church girl. She'd go to church and I go to Apple. I paid the $200 and I learned Final Cut Pro, kinda. And I was editing. I was fortunate to be the photographer, videographer for Troy Polamalu's first visit to American Samoa. And I was working on that and I was happy. Then Final Cut Pro changed everything. Now I got my stuff locked into the original version and I don't want to learn the other, so iMovie. So what you're gonna see in a minute is some snippets from some documentaries I did for sports through the South Pacific. And ironically, when I first got my drone, right when the Phantom 4 came out, I couldn't fly it because of trade winds and because of rain. So I was watching you guys trying to learn stuff. So thank you guys. I've only lost one drone, and we'll get to that story later, because I watched you guys and tried to learn, and I'm very appreciative to you. So half of what you see is going to be after only 12 minutes of flying, my third time out. And I'm in the South Pacific, and I don't know about you guys, but 90% of my flying is over water, and my butt puckers quite a bit when I fly over water. And that'll lead to my DJI Mavic, original Mavic story and refresh. But the American Samoa government, the Samoa government, the Fiji government, the Tongan government, they'd love you to come. And the interesting aspect of flying or doing anything is the village and the churches are actually the most powerful entities in the South Pacific Islands. It's not necessarily the central government. So let me know, let Kelly know. I think he'd love to come too, give Germany a rest one year. And we'll go down and you can all shoot better video than me. You'll see that. There's a lot of mistakes. You'll see some props in the right-hand corner, but sometimes if I'm on another assignment, I only got a little window, and sometimes I'm shooting for something, sometimes I'm shooting for archives. Because as a journalist or as a flyer, you build archives, and CNN or some national program will call you up and say, hey, you know that Quentin Tarantino skydiving video you shot, Barry? Yeah, I shot that like 12 years ago in Hawaii. And they go, yeah, well, we want it now. He passed away or he released another movie. So you always protect your archives. My wife is like, clean your office, throw those negatives, throw those tapes, throw everything out, because I want my cousins to sleep here. No, that archives is gold. And I actually need your guys' help. I've tried to work with SC and UCLA film schools to see if I can do a deal with them where they have used my archives. I've got the only high definition video of the King of Tonga before he passed away. And there's going to be, you're going to see a German colonial building here where Robert Louis Stevenson used to go in there to get his permits and stuff when he lived in Samoa and died in Samoa. That building's not going to be there maybe at the end of this year. So when you're shooting, think about that. Think about history, think about archives. And also, you will eventually make money, because if I did a better job of marketing what I have, people would be throwing money at me. So if you can just, again, this is just a taste of Polynesia, just like that was a taste of Coco Samoa and a taste of chocolate macadamia nuts. And the purpose of it is diversity of what we have. We got city, we got buildings, we got people, we got rugby, we have old stuff, new stuff, and incredible blowholes. So roll it and please come.
Barry, I just wanted to ask a couple of things. You mentioned to me yesterday about your ability to fly over the teams and such. What's it like flying in Polynesia and Samoa, an American Samoa, versus flying in the States, like as far as laws and
American
stuff
Samoa is FAA, it is the States.
Okay.
That's why there's no American Samoa flying in stadiums. I actually have even more of shooting in the stadium during the game, flying over.
But
I
not
can
in
do
American
that
Samoa.
in foreign. Also, I'm a multinational. I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm a Samoan citizen, and I have rights to Israeli citizenship. So I can do crimes some of you can't do. So I've been talking about Cuba and old 50s cars. Maybe we could sneak down there
cool video
too.
to do. So I was informed that our lunch has arrived, and I want to make sure everybody gets to eat while it's hot. Does anybody have any questions for Barry? And you can tell your DJI story privately.
I need to finish on 2 quick items.
Okay.
Okay, number 1, don't be a cheap whore. Never give any imagery just to get your name on TV. Never, ever, ever. Because you pay for your drones, you pay for DJI or whatever, refresh insurance, you have expenses, you put yourself at risk. Never, ever, ever, because you won't be respected by professionals. Number 2, I suggest, there's a gentleman I met at Interdrone who's an expert on copyright. I think we all need to be better educated on copyright protection of our imagery. That's why I do not regularly put my good stuff on YouTube. I don't want to. I don't trust the whole deal, the whole drama. 2 important things, and the main reason I'm here is not to talk about what I talked about. I have got favorable letters from my Hawaii U.S. Senator, Brian Schatz, and my congresspeople and American Samoa Congresswoman. I got a partial disability, and I care a lot about disabled people. There is no reason why disabled people should not fully enjoy our national parks. So I've written, and I've advocated, and I put to DJI, I've had meetings with them, and I've spoken at Interdrone about this. I believe an exemption must and should be granted under Americans with Disability Act for disabled people that are immobile to fly in a designated area with a spotter. And what I've done is I've worked with Hoodman. They created this to use on tripods, which is, this particular one is a phantom bracket, 1/4-20 in the back. But then with my photo background, use a magic clamp, you can clamp it onto a wheelchair, and somebody that may not be able to support it or have to use one hand, you could also put the FTA Aviator single one on here. But we need to do something for disabled people. And I told DJI, even if you guys are not kind and sweet, how about this? How about you're gonna sell a hell of a lot more drones if people who cannot experience a national park can with a DJI drone. So I'm hoping you guys can think about that. And I was very grateful that Bill, the drone reviewer, is not here, that he actually mentioned my concept, because I wrote him and a few others. The other thing I want to talk about is we lost a couple young men last month in American Samoa. They drowned. Island people don't necessarily know how to swim well or understand how to deal with rip currents and things like that. So one kid was in trouble, another kid went in to save him. It took 3 hours for the first responders to come, and I'm not going to criticize the first responders, what happened, when they got the call. I don't care. I met with, let me pull his name up, the former acting director of the Tilwell or something, Charles Tilwell, of the FAA. I met with him a couple months ago in September, and I shared with him an idea I had called a civil drone patrol. We, as conventional drone flyers, do not really have that many clubs and stuff. FPV guys might, because they need to set up courses and get judges and competitions. I noticed that fixed wing flyers, they have clubs because they have to have runway. Well, the drone industry and drone consumers have matured to a point, okay, you shoot cool stuff, pretty pictures, you do stuff. Where do you go from here? I believe if we created a civil drone patrol concept where people would get together as volunteers and train like Red Cross does, like ham operators do, with first responders, with police, fire, EMS. There's a company, Zing, I was studying what could have happened, what could we have done to save those couple kids with a 3-hour delay. And I gave a talk at Interdrone in another meeting about search and rescue, and a Georgia firefighter came and talked to me and said, it ain't just the Pacific Islands. Pacific Islands, we have no rescue helicopters. In rural America, there are places where they don't have ability to do things. So I was looking at electronic releases and this and that, because what could have happened if there was a civil drone patrol, if there was people dispersed all over the islands, there could have been a water-actuated life preserver dropped from a consumer drone, because they don't weigh very much. So, you know, I don't know if it's going to always work all the time. I don't know the range all the time. So this company, Zing, I met these young men at Interdrone, thanks to the Lenspen people referred me. So they've hooked up with Gannett Sport. They're the ones that make the fishing line things that you drop. You take your fishing line out so you can cast easier and farther. And they created hook systems that, instead of using electronics, that it'll manually allow it to drop, or somebody could grab it and, depending on the tightening of this release, can pull the line down. You might be delivering insulin to somebody stuck in the mountains. You might be delivering life preserver to somebody in the water. You might be sending a cell phone to somebody. There are many times where I'm there where firefighters cannot go after dark or certain weather conditions, or if you have a massive natural disaster, you're going to need other people. So my quick concept, which he said he wanted me to work at the grassroots, and I think you guys reach the grassroots better than anybody, is create organizations of volunteers, work for the goal, the good of their community, and there's social aspects. You guys get together and you form these little groups around the country, and they're talking around the world now, and help work only under the direction of first responders of legitimate authority and help them. It might even be just that, I mean, what I've seen is a lot of crash drones with first responders that bought drones because they don't pay for it and they don't train as well as we do because they got other training to do. They have to train with firearms, with fire hoses, dealing with different types of fires. But we are on it, and we love our stuff. We take care of it. We're always ready. So I'm going to kick that out to you, and I want you guys to maybe talk about it on your channel, talk about if it'll work, because what he said was the FAA fully believes in what you've said. We don't want to go from the top. We want to go from the grassroots. We want to kick it up. And so I'm going to beg you to please give it consideration and talk about it. And I think I'm instructed to close, but the innovations that you guys have created by increasing the sport, Rick Bowman that I referred to, Jeff Sills, he creates things like two-piece, excellent storage, and he's donated. This will be available as a giveaway. Chi Chan from Hong Kong, only Young 360 and I have this device for a Osmo Pocket, and there's something special for you guys that have a smart controller. And some of you guys already done stories. He did a bigger, better Osmo Pocket case. So there's some other things. If you guys have the great company LoomCube, we found that in the field that the light goes on. So me and the dollar Japanese store came up with solutions. So talk to me if you have that, and if you have that problem.
The dollar store is your friend.
It is, put together stuff. Thank you all. Thank you very much, Kelly. And in closing, at Interdrone, I got this shirt, which is the story of Kelly's life.
Yes.
You know?
I think there's like getting married and having babies and stuff, but you know.
But he ends up with a drone.
That's right.
So that's you, man.
Thanks, man.
All right.
All right, Barry Markowitz.